Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Ritual Pastas. Yes, the series where we look at creepy rituals that exist in our world, or could exist in our world. This one is called the Sanguine Ritual of Woe for solitary users. It's a pretty lengthy one, and it's definitely one of the more legitimate one out of all we've done, so sit back, relax, and learn how to perform the Sanguine Ritual of Woe for solitary users. The Sanguine Ritual of Woe for the solitary caster. Items needed for the ritual. Number 1, sea salt. Number 2, 5 beeswax or homemade candles. Each the colors green, yellow, red, blue, and black. Number 3, incense, preferably cones, not sticks. Number 4, white chalk. Number 5, a cup you exclusively use, preferably marked with a monogram if applicable. Number 6, a flask containing purified water, not tap. Number 7, matches. Strike anywhere preferred. Do not use lighters if available. Number 8, a virgin knife, preferably silver. Note, the knife must not have been used previously for the purposes of carving food or acts of violence. Using such an item will introduce effects to the ritual which will not result in an outcome beneficial to the caster. Number 9, a natural bowl. For example, stone, wood, or clay. Number 10, a braid of sage. Do not use scented sage mixes. The Sanguine ritual presented here is designed for solitary users of arcane or magical arts to evoke spirits often associated with the night, and as such the ritual should be enacted between the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., unless where you live night starts earlier and lasts longer, so be sure to consult appropriate agents if you aren't sure. It must be stated that the ritual can be dangerous, as inexperienced or arrogant casters have been, in the past, met with unfortunate results of their foolishness, and while no fatalities have resulted in failure of this ritual, the spiritual repercussions are staggering. You have been warned. To begin, a prep phase must be undergone 3 days prior to the casting of the ritual. During this time, the caster must undergo a diet of red meat, eaten preferably raw, or as very rare. Beef is most common, but if lamb is bettered, favored by you, feel free though, but it is more expensive. The caster must also drink purified water, and not consume any kind of soda, tea, alcoholic beverage, and so on during this time. It is assumed that the caster has previously assembled aforementioned items for other ritual use. If not, use this 3-day period to assemble your ritual components. If you cast rituals outside of the home, or have a designated area where you prefer to work, I recommend you purify this area on the 3rd day, just before the ritual with the sage braid, by burning it, and taking part in a smudge ritual. On the day of the ritual, you are to fast from the moment you awaken to when the ritual is complete. You may continue to consume purified water, but nothing else is permitted. Before beginning the ritual, it is recommended to bathe thoroughly, but to not apply any lotions, hair product, deodorants, colognes, or other such agents one would normally apply to the body. The ritual as described here is designed for home use, however can be worked in an outdoor setting if the caster so chose. But be sure the location is isolated or private as to avoid interference from outsiders. In addition, this ritual does not call for the use of an altar as a centerpiece, but if one is available you are free to use it. Just be sure to anoint the altar in purified water and sprinkled with sea salt before beginning the ritual process. As in any ritual, be sure to face the altar north. If you are unsure, please consult a compass. When indoors, turn off all electronical devices, or remove them from the ritual space, as they will cause interference and distractions. To begin, this ritual must be done in the nude, so remove all clothing, hair ties, jewelry, including holy symbols, before entering the ritual area. Keep your belongings at least 9 feet away from casting area if possible to avoid them becoming sullied. From the center of the ritual area, measure out, if you haven't done so already, a circle roughly 9 feet in diameter. And as you measure it, take the sea salt and spill it onto the floor in the shape of a circle, starting in the eastern quadrant and working clockwise. Counterclockwise should be avoided, unless the caster has had many years of experience. Note, once the circle is drawn, you cannot exit it until the ritual is complete. Exiting it is going to open you up into malevolent forces that are going to invade your life. Now then, taking the yellow, red, blue, and green candles, place them at each of the 4 compass points on the perimeter of the circle, i.e. the yellow candle east, red candle south, blue candle west, and green candle north, placed in that order. And once the candles are set, You must light each one in the order previously listed, starting from the east and working clockwise. As you light each candle, you must say aloud the following. I call to the elemental air of the east. Follow this beacon and be welcome to my circle. I call to the elemental fire of the south. Follow this beacon and be welcome to my circle. I call to the elemental water of the west. Follow this beacon and be welcome into my circle. I call to the elemental earth of the north. Follow this beacon and be welcome into my circle. Once the candles have been lit, return to the center of the circle and line up the incense, matches, purified water, and sea salt at your feet, or on your altar in that order, taking the incense and raising it in your hand and say, I offer this sacrifice to the east, to the elements of the air. Light the incense and place it next to the yellow candle, raise a match, strike it and say, I offer the sacrifice to the south, to the elements of fire. Place a burnt match at the base of the red candle, raise the purified water and say, I offer the sacrifice to the west, to the elements of water. Place the water at the base of the blue candle, finally raise the sea salt and say, I offer the sacrifice to the north, to the elements of earth. Pour a small amount of sea salt at the base of the green candle. Return to the center of the circle, placing the black candle at your feet or atop your altar. Standing in the center of the circle, stand upright and raise your hands up so that you make a Y shape with your body. Enter a meditative state during this time, but do not pray if you follow a particular religious practice. This ritual is non-denominational, and calling to any deity will inhibit or render the ritual void. While in your meditative state, envision in your mind you are surrounded by a pillar or cone of light that radiates downwards onto you. Hold on to this vision in your mind's eye, reciting aloud or in your mind this chant. I stand here before the threshold of now and then, the veil between worlds. I stand here alone before myself, cast in myself, alone but watched. The mantra or chant should be repeated for a number of times until you begin to feel a change in air pressure around you. You should begin feeling a static effect in your immediate area, a noticeable drop in temperature recorded to between 5 to 15 degrees or a drop in usual cases, and an electrical feeling that starts at the soles of your feet and crawls up your body. When this sensation begins, you have successfully allowed your physical and spiritual self to align with the physical and astral planes respectively. At this point, you can lower your arms. Now speak the following aloud. I come here alone and whole, and so shall I leave here, though I shall leave wiser. To all the elements I give thanks, and offer my tidings. Please guide me and lead me to my success. So noted by. Kneel before the black candle and place your hands, palms inward, just an inch away from the candle. You should notice that the candle is considerably cold, and you will likely feel a gentle breeze swirling around the candle. Do not be alarmed, as this is natural and happens on occasion. You should note that it will not affect the ritual's outcome. Recite the following. So it was in days before light that here we came, when stars and moons shone balefully and shadows flourished. Here again do I return to the nameless place between here and there, the sanguine plain and those that dwell therein. I call now to those without names, the darkness which resides beyond sight. Come forth to my beacon and answer my summons. Light the black candle. It is very likely the flame on the wick will be very small, or not illuminate as strongly as the other candles. Keep in mind the color of the flame, as this will indicate whether your call is being acknowledged. If the flame of the black candle is red or orange, then it is likely you have not been answered, and should blow out the candle and recite the above phrase again before relighting it. If, however, the flame is predominantly blue, or at the base, you are in the presence of something. From this point on, a very strong warning should be given. Do not make demands, or think you have any advantage or the entity you have contacted. Many ritualists who have made this mistake believe that the protective circle or drawings of elementals will keep them safe, and this folly has shown very dire consequences. Shadow spirits are among the most dangerous, secondly to the so-called demonic spirits. Where demonic spirits acknowledge the natural order of magic and nature, shadows don't. It is likely that the shadows in the room will manifest outside the circle in unnatural ways, taking on semi-humanoid shapes that are often very slender, misshapen, and appear one-dimensionally on a three-dimensional plane. Some have reported that the shapes will stalk the perimeter of the circle, but will never attempt to enter it or probe it. However, if casting or ritual components were enacted incorrectly, they can and will find a breach in your circle and attempt to attack you. Attacks from shadow spirits are often nightmarish. Some reports that all they remember is the sense of being cornered, judged, and humiliated, or even violated. Shadows do not instill physical harm, rather psychological and spiritual harm, that results in many people committing acts of self-violence such as cutting, developing anorexic habits, or even loss in emotional control resulting in outward expressions of rage and depression. What is the purpose of the ritual? You may be asking, or, since you have been reading, what benefit does calling forth these clearly nightmarish and unfeeling entities have on the caster? Should all of these, have previously been stated, have followed exactly, the shadow spirits will be, to an extent, at your disposal. Shadow spirits cannot be used as harbingers, or so the caster is not permitted to command the spirits to cause bodily harm to another person. In addition, the spirits are not to be used for petty purposes such as making somebody love the caster, an emotion that shadow spirits apparently do not comprehend or care for, or garnering material wealth or goods. It must be stated that these are transcendent beings of intelligence, and though they take a physical shadow appearance to us, they are not part of the physical world as we perceive it, and therefore the extent of what they can do in the physical plane is limited. In short, anything asked of them that focuses on material or emotional benefit is mute, and will anger the shadow spirits, resulting in possible harm upon the caster. However, what can be ascertained from these dark entities is knowledge, secrets, and possibly insights into rituals previously unknown to the caster. In order to gain this, the caster must place their hand directly over the flame of the black candle, and say aloud the present: I call to you nameless beings to lead me to the answers to my query, and that query is, and here you can insert what you want. Be advised that if you are looking directly at your hand or asking your questions, you are likely to see a smoky oil mist begin to crawl up your arm towards your face. It's uncertain as of yet if this is the only means that shadows have with communicating to humans, or if this is the extent of what is allowed for them to communicate while inside your circle. On an additional note, the caster must be warned that several questions should not be posed when making contact with shadow spirits. The following list should be heeded as closely as previous warnings. Don't ask about the afterlife. Don't ask about existence of gods or such deities. Don't ask for knowledge pertaining to the secret of life. Do not ask how to destroy a spirit or entity. Do not ask other spirits, including, about them, including demons or humans or animals. Don't ask how to enslave a spirit. Don't ask to speak with or any other spirit or spirit type. Don't ask about the future, and do not ask about the realm shadow spirits dwell in. Whatever knowledge you gain, or wish to gain, from the shadow spirits will be transmitted to you while you are in a state similar to an OOBE or out-of-body experience, where you'll mentally see the answers or information played before you. While to the caster this may feel like a great deal of time passes while having these visions, the truth is this phenomena occurs in seconds. Many casters who have made it this far claim to return to a fully conscious state covered in cold sweat and breathing heavily or feeling exhaustion. Some even claim to have nosebleeds. Closing the ritual now. It can be done in numerous ways. The easiest, though often the hardest, is to continue gaining knowledge from the spirits until the black candle burns out of its own accord. Do not blow out the candle. If you extinguish the candle so blazingly, the result will be chaotic and terrifying. Don't ever do this. The second method is by performing a basic dismissal ritual, commonly found in Wiccan and pagan rituals how-to books. Bear in mind, these rituals are very easy or very difficult, and should be followed closely. Never, however, invoke the name or presence of an outside force, including a god, spirit, or any other extra-dimensional entity to dismiss the shadows. This will cause them to lash back at the caster and reveal secrets that human should not possess knowledge of, that can render a psyche into a catatonic state. The third method is straightforward and somewhat quick, but will mean having to inflict minor physical harm to yourself, taking the knife, prick or lightly cut your skin to draw blood and allow the blood to drip into a natural material bowl. Generally a couple drops of blood suffice, but it never must be less than 3 drops. Taking the blood in the bowl with you, walk around the circle and collect a small sample of your elemental sacrifice and place them into the bowl, with the exception of the match. Return to the center of the casting area and stir the contents of the bowl with the knife. Finally, hold the bowl over the black candle and say aloud, "And to this sanguine fire, I give the 4 elements, plus the 5th, as my token of gratitude and gift of farewell." Pour the mixture over the black candle until it is extinguished. The Sanguine Ritual of Woe is called such for one reason. No matter the precautions taken, communing with shadow spirits will always result in some manner of disaster, small or great, to transpire in the world. Several Occultists who have researched this ritual believe that the shadow spirits draw an energy to manifest not from the caster or offered sacrifices, but rather from balancing forces in nature that some would equate to positive energies, causing an imbalance in the localized physical world. The imbalance can result in anything as small as a termite or vermin infestation in a home to earthquakes. There are certain ways to gauge how much of this energy taken and used by the shadow spirits, if in fact they are responsible for such happenings, and so enacting this ritual must be done with this knowledge in hand. Knowledge, truth, power, these things come at great prices, and for those that use the gift of ritual magic to attain such influence in aforementioned spheres of power, there must be an exchange that is taken not only from the caster, but the world itself. Some magic users believe that the use of this ritual in abundance can result in global catastrophes, or something even worse. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a sanguine ritual. Now, I have mixed feelings on this one, seriously. It's very lengthy, and for the most part it builds well and the length makes sense. The required materials are common and not difficult to acquire, and the actions performed make a lot of sense, and I can recognize some stuff from old world religions that I've read about a little through some university classes, minors I took. But it is noted that I am an editor/engineer, not an expert on rituals or religions. But that being said, what I read seemed to tie in well, and anyone watching who is an expert on the phenomenon, please share some possible discrepancies in the comments below. That being noted, the one thing I have to really wonder is, who would even do this? See, the previous rituals we covered had some proper rewards, whether monetary or even in some case mentally beneficial, and the knowledge hassled through that was relevant. But here, we know that we have knowledge as a reward, but even then, it's kind of limited with what we can ask, and honestly, it's never explained on what we can get. I mean, some of the questions that I was limited to, such as, asking about the future, if I can't ask about that, it's sort of limiting on why I would even do such a thing. So, honestly, that's what I would ask you. Why would anyone do it? And then, even when the ritual is done, we still have this risk of malevolent issues and spirits, and when that happens, you realize, why would you honestly ever even bother doing something like this? See, unlike Channel Infinity, you really have nothing to gain. So you have to be confident with what you're asking. And even then, in this quest for knowledge in such a fashion, is it worth doing such a thing and risking your life in such a manner? I mean, why would you bother doing this for gaining knowledge, which you can do in other rituals that are, marginally safer? I don't think so, that this is really worth it, but honestly, to me, that's just my opinion, and doing such rituals or any kind of rituals is someone's personal decision. So, all in all, this is a great ritual pasta. The rewards are a little skewed to me, but then again, to each their own. And just judging off rewards, I can't say if it's good or not. That's just for the individual themselves. But as each step goes and how it ties in, rather than just being arbitrarily thrown together, definitely fits the bill for something plausible. Am I going to try this? No, because I value something called life. But if you do, please beware. Anything could happen. And in the end, what would you rate this, and what would you think, do you think such a ritual holds any form of validity? Please let me know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Ritual Pastas, and if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Mudahar, and I'm out.